Hi, hello everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. Last time I filmed this, I did not use my phone as my other phone as a microphone, which I noticed was like really bad, like audio quality. So I'm using my other phone now. So here you go, you guys. I'm doing this just for you, even though I hate like speaking into a phone because I feel like I don't know how far away it should be from me. But anyway, let's get this party started. Today we're gonna do the basically monthly book wrap-ups, which I do every 2 months. Every 2 months I do like a book wrap-up, and it is for the month of September and also for October and September. I actually didn't read that much these 2 months. I think because I was like away for an entire month, and during that month I wasn't as productive with reading as I usually am, so I did not read nearly as much as I usually do, but it's fine. It's still good 4 books, so we're gonna get through them. But yeah, if you don't know, if you're new to this channel, if you don't know, I basically had a goal early this year that I desperately wanted to get more educated and I wanted to read more. So I started reading every single day, and also I'm taking advantage of my, unemployment. So I have been reading every single day since like this year, to just basically reach my goal. I have reached officially, guys. I've read 34 books. What's up? I've read 34 books. And so what I do is I usually read a nonfiction book in the morning and then a fiction book at night. And yeah, it's been going great. I like this sort of new routine. I feel a little bit more productive every day, even though when I don't do other stuff, I still read. So maybe is reading productive? I don't know, but like I feel a little bit productive. So I think that's all that matters. But yeah, I will get into them, and we'll talk about, each book. Let's get started, okay? So the first book I'm going to talk about is The Trial by Franz Kafka. Hello, what's up? I read this book. I'm a huge Kafka fan. Let me tell you what, I read Metamorphosis. I loved it. I read those short stories behind Metamorphosis in the book, which is, I think, The Judgment, and then there's the Penal Colony. The Penal Colony, chef's kiss. It's so good. I loved it. But yeah, I love Franz Kafka's work. The reason why I love his work so much is because I never know what he's talking about, and that's a good thing, right? You never really understand because his work is very, very vague, and so it can be interrupted in any way possible. You can look at it from so many different ways, and it all makes sense. So his work is always so interesting because of that, and this book, which is The Trial, is very similar to all of his other books, which is that you don't know what's going on. So what it does, it follows a Joseph K, who is suddenly arrested at his house. Like, he wakes up one morning and he gets arrested, but it's not arrested by regular police. It is like people who are not the police. They're not the government, and they come in there and they're like, you are being judged, you have to come to trial. And then it's not regular judges, it's not regular trial, it's not like it's the government, it is someone they don't know who. And he discovers that he's being judged and he's being tried, okay, for something. He can't know what it is. He can't know if he's done it or not. He can't know anything. He's essentially being tried about something he doesn't understand, doesn't know what it is, and a court system where he doesn't understand how it works. You don't know how it works. Nobody knows how it works except the judges and the people who works in it, but they don't share any information to you. And so he's trying to navigate that while also trying to understand what's going on. And this is the entire, basically, book. Now, Albert Camus. I always say Camus, but I heard someone say Camo. I think it's probably pronounced like that because it's French. But anyway, he wrote a review about this. It offers everything, confirms nothing, and essentially that's exactly this book. I remember when I finished reading this book, I was so confused. I remember, I literally, went Franz Kafka, The Trial Literary Analysis, because I was like, what the fuck does that even fucking mean? It makes no sense. But I think I know what it is. At the start of this book, there was an introduction done by, let me see who it's done by. Sorry guys. Idris Berry, or if it's Arabic, Berry, because his first name is Idris. But anyway, this introduction was done, and he wrote about sort of the context of this specific novel. And apparently Franz Kafka wrote this after he has met his in-laws for the girl that he wanted to get married, which eventually did not work out, and he afterwards wrote this. Now this can be interpreted in many different ways. I personally think, this is my own analysis of this novel, is that he wrote this after basically meeting the in-laws and feeling like he was on trial, but he doesn't know what the criteria is. He doesn't understand what he has to do, and he is being judged on something that he basically does not understand, nor can he change, nor can he even control. It's something so out of his control, and he felt like he was being tried and judged heavily, but he could not understand how to even like move along with the system and understand like what's going on, how to gain control and how to win, basically win the trial, because he doesn't understand it. The end of the book, which is a little bit of a spoiler, so I'm not gonna mention, but the end of the book is it doesn't work. Right? It doesn't work. And which makes sense, because in the end, he did not actually end up marrying the girl. He left after meeting her in-laws, and they just like broke up afterwards. So maybe that's just like the feeling he felt at being tried and being judged heavily by his future in-laws, which did not become his in-laws, and that anxiety of navigating sort of like that social structure and those events, like, which are very nerve-wracking, right? And then he kind of wrote that in a very absurdist way, which makes sense for Franz Kafka. But I personally think is that, but actually you can really like put this anyway. You can say that this is political, and it's discussing how oftentimes systems are unclear and people get judged for like, you know, for things that they don't understand, and they get attacked for things they don't understand, and they are tried for things they don't understand, and the juridical systems are extremely hard. It's extremely bureaucratic, which is mentioned here. It's extremely hard to navigate. You don't really understand what's going on. It's not very clear to the public. And so oftentimes the people who are going through the systems feel like they're in trouble, but they don't understand how to get themselves out of trouble and how they even got themselves into trouble. So it could be political. It could be discussing how, even if it could be about economic conditions of people and how people get stuck in the system that supposedly is trying to help them, but in the end ends up like not helping them because they don't really understand how it works. You can really interrupt this in any way possible, and you know, you can talk about how it's injustice, how people from specific backgrounds get judged for, you know, for things they can't essentially control and they don't even understand, and it's like a system that they were essentially created but they have no choice in and no active say in. It can be really anything. You can really interrupt this in any way possible. But it is such a beautifully written book. It is also the ending was a little bit shocking to me. I personally was very shocked by the ending, but I think it was a perfect ending for this book. I really liked this book. I think that I like Franz Kafka's work because they don't really deliver anything. They doesn't give you his message outright, so it does take a little bit of analysis at the end of the book. You will have to look things up and you will have to read theories and other things, and I personally really enjoy that. I enjoy the ambiguity of his writing, and I think it's so good. So yeah, I love this book. I highly recommend The Trial. I think it's considered one of his best work, which I understand because it's like it is so vague in its messaging that it can be interpreted however the person reading it may feel, going through specific maybe like life challenges that they're currently facing, so they can interrupt this book any way possible. And I think that gives people a sense of like excitement and happiness, and they feel like fulfilled, and it resonates with them. So I think this is like a book that kind of works in that way. But yeah, I mean, Franz Kafka's work is phenomenal. I can't say anything else. So it's a really good book. I recommend it. I actually gave this the trial. I gave this an 8 out of 10. I gave it an 8 out of 10, which I really liked it. I just think that there was just a little bit of repetition, but which basically it did add to the story. There was a little bit of repetition, but it was like, it made sense in the context because it's him just struggling to navigate basically what he's going through. It did feel a little bit redundant as the reader, but it still made sense and it was still good. That's why I gave it like a little bit less, but I still think it's a really, really good book and I highly recommend you guys read it. Okay? Next book I read is I Who Have Never Known Men. Now, I did read the physical copy, but it's actually my sister, and I loved it with her. I Have Never Known Men is by Jacqueline Harpman. I think that's how you say her name. I really like this book. However, my sister, when she read this, that's the thing. I've discovered this. I shouldn't listen to people or read reviews about books and stuff, because I come in with a preconceived notion or at least some form of excitement. And so I don't necessarily enjoy the book nearly as much as I want to enjoy the book because of that. But I Have Never Known Men, my sister read it and she was just like, the greatest book I've ever read in my whole life. It is so good, my favorite book ever. And I came into this book with that notion that it's going to basically be the greatest thing I've ever read in my whole life. Now, was it really, really, really good? Yes. Was it the greatest thing I've ever read in my life? No. Which I think why I gave it an 8 out of 10 rather than a 9 or maybe sometimes 10 out of 10. It's because I came into there with so much excitement and so much expectation that I ended up feeling a little bit disappointed. But basically it follows their main character, who basically has been imprisoned her whole life in an underground bunker along with 30 other women, okay? The guards who watched over them daily, okay, without telling them why, they would not interact with them, they would not talk to them. There was a few rules in the bunker. They were not allowed to touch each other. And what else? I think that's it. And they're just imprisoned. They don't understand what's going on or why they're in prison or anything like that. And then, maybe I should stop here or maybe not. Maybe I should stop here. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna stop here and I'm going to let you guys figure out the rest yourselves. It's a really good book. I really enjoyed this book. I understood I don't know. I feel like I haven't sat down with this book and actually properly kind of try to understand what's going on. I kind of read this and was like, oh, it's a really good book. I enjoyed it. But I definitely loved our main character, who, by the way, was a child. She doesn't remember her life prior to the bunker and is sort of comes into the world and awareness, into her awareness as a human being inside of the bunker. So she doesn't really understand life prior to the bunker, unlike the other women who do remember life before the bunker but don't remember how they got into the bunker. So there's a little bit of an amnesia aspect here. The book is essentially discussing what life is, right? Without the preconceived notions of what it means to be a woman. Essentially, that is essentially what it means. And it is toying with what are humans, or what is a woman without the society that creates the messaging of what a woman is. Do you know what I mean? I think personally that is the message of the entire book. There is a lot of things that I liked about this book. One of my favorite areas is something that she discussed, which I think a lot of people, I think a lot of people say it's like about feminism, which I do understand that it is in its story, it is feminist, but it's not fully feminist, but it is a little bit, right? But I think a quote that really made me like think and resonate with me, and I think I really liked, and also my sister really liked, is she asks one of like the girls, she's like, do women like want to be pretty because of men, or do you want to like get like, you know, dolled up, look nice because of men? And she's like, yeah, it is because of men, but women don't want to admit it, but the reality is that it is because of men. And I kind of like that, and I kind of resonated with that. Is the truth is, it's not just because of men, I think it's because of society. And when you are living in a society with preconceived notions of what it means to be a woman, and one of those is to look good and to be properly dressed and to have nice hair and to have makeup on, etc., you are gonna care about those things. But if you kind of live in a bunker, or not just live in a bunker, but live in a society where the foundations of what it means to be a human are kind of shattered, and you're kind of like in a dystopian apocalyptic universe, those things don't necessarily matter at all. And so when people say like, oh, I dress up nicely because I want to look good for myself, it's like, is it though? Is it? Because I feel like we dress in a very specific way with very specific requirement that I personally think that we wouldn't have gone to the such extent lengths if it weren't for society, if it weren't for other women, if it weren't for men as well. Because there is a social conditioning that we face on daily basis. Like, it is a lot of times when feminists say those things, they don't really think of womanhood. They think of womanhood almost in a vacuum where they're not really affected by anything else. But the truth is, you do not exist in a vacuum. You exist in the context of the world around you. You will exist within the social conditioning. And even though we hate the patriarchy and we hate misogyny, it is deeply ingrained in all of us. And it is deeply ingrained in us to want to look pretty, because it is a value. It is something that society and men and the patriarchy and the systems, all of them, place on women. And so regardless of whether we do it for ourselves or for someone else or anything like that, we can say whatever we want, but the truth is, in its core, in its deepest core, it is about others. It's not about you. This is my own analysis. So when I read that, I was like, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really good book. Like I said, I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a short book. You'll get through it really easy. It's very easy to read. It's very interesting as well. It is, I like the ending. Even though it is tragic. I have to say, it is a little bit sad. It is sad, but it is really, really good. Like, I genuinely loved this book. I think I came in with a little too much expectations. And that kind of fucked me up. Don't come in with that much expectations. Come in with a little bit less expectations, that it's going to be a great book, but it's not going to be like, you know, mind-blowing. I think sometimes some people really do think that, but I personally was just like, yeah, it's nice. I liked it. Regardless. But yeah, let's move on to my nonfiction book that I read during the month of September, which is How the West Stole Democracy from the Arabs, by Elizabeth Thompson. Now, this was published in 2020. Yeah, it was published in 2020. Now, I read this book because I'm Syrian. This is talking about not just Syria, it's talking about the entirety of Levant, so Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine. And that history out of a brief period after the Ottoman Empire, where people and politicians from our countries were trying to create a great Syria state, which is basically Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine, and create a democratic country. And so they were basically advocating for that, because at that time we were sort of a little bit we were told that we were allies, but essentially we were under the French and British mandate in a way, right? Not fully at that point, but in a way. And our politicians were desperate to create a democratic state, because they truly believed in democratic states that was free, that was giving rights for everybody. And as a one large country, all of this entire region, all of us together, one large country, and then we would work together, including Palestine, of course, and then we would be one big ginormous country, and we would live democratically. And they did do that. They did indeed actually do that, and they managed to do it, and they created a very good Congress. They created a very good constitution that was very, very democratic. And it was actually more democratic than the European ones, because it gives rights to everyone, all ethnic backgrounds. And at that time, there was segregation still in European countries, so it was actually even more democratic than some European states as well. And they completely erased the existence of that government, and they still went ahead and put us under mandate, chop us up into tiny countries, and do whatever they wanted with us. And basically this is following the history of that period, and also following the different characters that are involved. And it's so interesting, and it's also so upsetting to see that we had people that were so good, that understood politics, that understood democracy, understood everything that all of these things stood for, and we're working towards that future that we all dream of. Like, all of these nations, all of these countries, we still dream of to this day, and we almost had it. If it weren't for the West, we almost had it. But I also discussed how it kind of laid foundations to what comes next. Like, that point in time, Sykes-Picot, which is the agreement that would chopped us up into small countries, that was that foundation to basically every single political party that has a major power right now in the Middle East. And it has affected us substantially. Let me tell you that. It has affected us substantially. Hold on, my hair clip is falling and I want to fix it. I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay. Yeah, I loved this book. I gave it a 9 out of 10. The only thing I didn't like about this book is I think it just was really long. I think I was really tired. Like, I loved it. I was reading through it really easily. I was like upset. I would get genuinely viscerally upset, because I'm like, we had it. We was right there. And also because I don't know, is it because I left Syria early, but I don't think we've ever had like such an I've read such a deep dive into that period of our history. So it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I recommend everybody from this region, like everyone, Syrian, Lebanese, Jordan, Palestinian, to read this book, to understand it deeply, and also understand what are the foundations and what we were doing and what we were capable of, because right now it feels like we are not capable of these things, but we were definitely capable of doing it, and we were capable of the dreams that we fight for right now and that we are trying to get right now is still the same thing, which is so sad, because this was like 1909 and between 1909 and 1920, that was the period that this book follows. Like, since then, we still have the same struggles of us trying to get to freedom and democracy and self-determination, essentially. So it's so sad that we still are facing these issues to this day, but it is such an interesting book. I think that everyone from this region should read it, and I think everyone who wants to understand this specific region, which is the Levant region, the Bilad Sham region, a little bit more, should also read this book. It's really, really good. But yeah, I recommend it to everybody. All right, let's move on. The next book I read is Teaching Critical Thinking by Bell Hooks. I loved this book. This is such an easy book to read. Like, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I also thought it was such an easy book to read. So out of ease of reading, I gave it a 10. It's so easy. It's clear. It's concise. I've talked about this in my other videos. If you've watched my other videos, I talked about this quite a bit. But Bell Hooks has a way of writing that is so simple but yet concise, and it delivers the message exactly how it's meant to be. And it's not that hard, and it's done in a way that is very accessible. Okay, and that's something that I've always want it. I always hate when writers just want to show off how good and how big the words that they can use are, and that's nice and all, right? But I want something that is easy, that is accessible, and honestly, I loved it. It's just a good book. If you don't know Bell Hooks, she's basically an American author. She's a theorist, a socialist, and also was she a socialist? Sorry, I meant to say feminist, but maybe she was a socialist. I don't know. I don't really remember. I think she was, because she's anti-capitalist, so she probably is within that realm. But yeah, she is a teacher as well. She's taught. She was a professor, and she writes books. And her books are so good. I love her writing, love the way she writes, love the way she talks about these things. I fully agree with her almost every fucking thing. I think reading this book, I was so engaged and so happy with it. Like, I was genuinely feeling really good. One thing about her writing, and if you don't know what it is, basically it is a collection of essays that discusses the importance of teaching critical thinking and allowing critical thinking within within the classroom, but not just that, but how to teach for liberation, which is a major thing that she discusses quite a bit. It's a really, really good book. I really liked it. Bell Hooks is an amazing writer, and just it was such an interesting thing to read. This was first published in 2009, and it's just a really good book. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. And when I like a book a lot, it's really hard for me to sit here and like talk, because sometimes I'm just like, what do I talk about? There's just so many to talk about. But this book is essentially, it's a really good, if you're kind of getting into a progressive like politics and understanding that a little bit more. I think it's a really, really good book to start with. It's simple, it's easy, it's concise, it does not require a deeper understanding of anything. You can just go in there with, this is a very beginner friendly book is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I really liked it. Teaching Critical Thinking by Bell Hooks. You should give it a shot, give it a try, read it. It's really, 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 really good. Okay. This is the final book. Yes. Wow. I don't know. But it is Right Wing Women by Andrea Dworkin. I think. I think it's Dworkin. I'm not sure. This is a book that discusses the patriarchal systems and offers a hypothesis as to why right-wing women choose to confirm rather than reject the system. This book, let me just say, it will confront your worldview. Andrea is a radical feminist, so do I fully agree with everything she says? No, I think she's just very nihilistic. I personally think she's very nihilistic, and so I don't necessarily agree with what she's saying constantly. And I think that's like something that I had a little bit of a hard time, but I also understand where she reached those conclusions, and I understand why she reached those conclusions. Like, I understand her thought process, the reason why, and everything about that, but sometimes I just feel like, is this a little too radical? Yes, because she's a radical feminist, but I don't know, it's so weird. It will definitely is. One thing I had to get used to is her writing. It's because it's very direct, it's very graphic. The way she talks about things, it's like she's not trying to hold your hand throughout this process in any capacity. She's essentially yelling at you so you can understand it, which it can have benefits, but I don't think that if you're very new to the feminist movement and you have not read previous work about other feminists, read Bell Hooks, right? Do not read Andrea. Leave Andrea until a lot later, okay? Essentially, this book is discusses all of the issues that basically women go through. I hate this because I can't figure out, is it this side? No, and then it's not this side. Maybe it's this side. Okay, but essentially it discusses the patriarchy. It gives you, throughout this time, it gives you like an idea of what the patriarchy is and why certain systems exist, how these affect women, etc. And then what Andrea's story is that right-wing women are not oblivious to the system. They're not oblivious to the struggles. They're not stupid, right? They're not like, they don't understand what's going on. They understand what's going on in a very, very, very like clear way. They understand what's happening. They understand the system. They know what's going on. The issue is they have two different outcomes. You either reject the system and work on changing it, or you think you are nihilistic and you think there is no way to change the system. This is just how things are, and the best way to survive this system is to conform. And so do everything that they want you to do whatever they ask you to do, be the good wife, be the good mother, and you'll survive. And you'll live the best outcome you could in this system. And that is Andrea's entire basically hypothesis in here. And it's I like this book. One thing about this book is, like I said, I don't like the language as much. I think, like I said, she does not hold your hand through this process. She is not holding your hand. She will attack you head on. She will confront your worldview. She will make you think deeply about yourself, about everything that's going on, about what it means to be a woman, right? There are instances where I think personally I don't necessarily agree with, but there are instances where I'm like, yeah, I do agree with this point of view. I do understand. The thing is regardless of what Andrea is saying, I definitely understand where she's coming from. And that's the thing that I feel like, I don't necessarily agree, because I personally perceive myself as a socialist feminist, so I don't necessarily agree fully with radical feminism. However, one thing about me is I understand where they're coming from. I understand the anger. I understand the rejection of everything, because they feel like any confirmation or any negotiation we have with the system is essentially going to continue to perpetuate it. So we're just upholding the status quo. We should not uphold the status quo. We should shatter it. And I understand that. I can understand that. This book is not beginner friendly. If you've not read feminist literature before, do not read this book. It is a little bit strong. It's a little bit hard. It is hard hitting. It will hit you very, very hard. You will question everything. Hi. Well, I just realized that I forgot to film a outro, so I'm gonna film this real quick. But yeah, that is all that I've read in these 2 months. Like I said, I was not the most productive reading a month, because I think the previous 2 months I read like 7 books, and now I read only 4, so not as much, but I'm getting back into it. Right now I'm reading The Brothers of Karamazov. Let me show you. There it is. I have read this much already, okay? I've read a significant amount. I'm not almost done, but I'm way more than halfway through, so I'm actually very excited. And I'm actually very intrigued about what's gonna happen. It's such a good book. I highly recommend, by the way. And my nonfiction book that I'm reading is The Critique of Economic Rationale by Andrei Gross, something like that. One of the previous books I talked about, which ended up being one of my all-time favorite books. Sorry about that. One of my all-time favorite books, which is the Refusal of Work by David Freine, I think it's called. His name I forgot, but that was one of my all-time favorite books I've read this year. So I really wanted to read something that is similar, and one of the people he really quotes quite frequently is Andre, so I thought that I should read his books. So yeah, I'm enjoying it quite a lot so far. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today. These are all of my weekly, monthly wrap up books. My bi-monthly, again, still have not looked it up. Does bi-monthly means every 2 months or once a month? I don't remember. Or twice a month, sorry. I don't remember. I don't know. I have not looked it up, but it is every 2 months. I'm gonna say every 2 months just to be safe. This is my every 2 month book wrap up. Okay? Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Next video I'm gonna make is probably a vlog. The one after that, I'm gonna make my favorite books I've read so far. So if you want like some good recommendations, you can click on that video. So sorry about that. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go now because I want to eat a snack. I got a snack, so I want to go eat it. And I also need to study, unfortunately. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.